Pick the mic up.
Compass General, and with all his colors and fruit salad. And he was standing there in place, and the guy came in with the light meter, and he grabbed it and went, it was the light meter, not the mic.
Oh, gosh.
Okay.
It's a racist story.
Don't start.
Don't do anything funny until he's recording.
No.
How close do you work this way?
No, just hold it right like you were. That's perfect.
In such way?
In such way, sir. I was telling Martha, is that her name?
Martha
Mrs.
is
Cavett?
his wife, yes.
Mrs. Cavett. That I did have. You were on this podcast. You were on it before, and I came to your home, and we did an hour. You had just released Brief Encounters, your book,
Yes.
which people can still purchase over wherever books are sold. You got a plug there, by the way, free plug, no extra charge.
That's a start.
Exactly. And I came to your home. We talked about the book, and you gave me all these wonderful anecdotes, as Mr. Cavett is wont to do.
He's got a few.
The thing I remember is that you laughed.
What a convenient memory to have from that. I laughed a lot. Exactly.
That's the kind of guy you like.
I'm laughing now.
Are we on the radio or the air or the television or the?
It's hot mic.
This is a hot mic.
It's a hot mic.
That's why it's red.
That's what they used to call me.
And the reason there's a photo of me kissing you is because when I couldn't restrain myself and I was meeting my hero, one of my heroes, but this guy has invented the interview as far as I'm concerned.
You know, Dick's wife likes to say that all of the women and half of the men want to kiss him when they interview him.
Wow.
You're in that half, my friend.
And boy, do I have my hands full.
You do.
One of them anyway.
Remind me where you guys... I know you have a long relationship, working relationship.
But I've never kissed him.
Well, we can get that out of the way finally. This is the...
It's early in the week.
Let me tell you, it's a memorable experience.
We've hugged. We've gravitated towards it, but we've not actually consummated the relationship yet.
This has taken a turn that's very, very weird.
And quickly.
And right at the top. Get it out of the way.
Kissing aside, how did you guys first come to start working together? Because I know you've...
I've known him for a long time. I met him when I was in college as a stalker. I was an intern on a shoot that he was doing, and I started bothering him about Groucho. And he'd clearly forgotten that by the next time we met. And then we had these, I guess we could say, brief encounters over the years. Yeah. And then
plug.
I had the good idea, I think, of putting the Dick Cavett Show out on DVD. And I helped make that happen. I produced 5 DVD collections of the Cavett Show.
Is this for Shout Factory?
Yes.
Okay, because I worked at Sony Music, and
they were
coming
a
out.
distributor for a bit of that time, yes.
Yeah.
So we did a bunch of Dick Cavett DVD sets. We shot some new stuff for that. We did a few other interesting things together, and then I was the executive producer of Dick Cavett's Watergate and Dick Cavett's Vietnam. And
which is what, just for people who are listening?
2 documentaries.
Okay.
One's from 2014 and one's from 2015. They were done to coincide with some timely events, like the 40th anniversary of the resignation of Richard Nixon, and then the 40th anniversary of the end of the Vietnam War. So those were successful television shows that looked really good. A fellow named John Scheinfeld, a good friend of mine, directed them.
Oh, yeah, I know him.
And, I've worked with John a lot over the years. But for the Ali thing, I kind of had a different idea of what I wanted to do. And people ask me, what inspired it. And I will say this. Dick writes a blog for the New York Times online.
I know,
he wrote 2 columns about Ali that are wonderful, and they're in Brief Encounters.
Right.
Along with a blog about my Groucho Marx anthology, just to talk about plugs, huh? Dick's been really generous about my other work. I did a book on the Marx Brothers recently called For the Three Musketeers, and he is a big fan of that book. He hasn't written a blog about it yet. We'll have to talk about that. But
oh my God, I haven't?
No, but the review you wrote is almost like a blog post.
Wait, I forgot to send it in.
Ah, there you go. So the Ali thing sort of was inspired by those 2 blogs because the archive has so many shows with Ali, and he's so incredible on Dick Cavett Show.
Right.
So that's where that all sort of started.
We'll get to Muhammad Ali in a moment because, of course, that's what your film, which is called...
We wouldn't want to leave him out.
No, that would be egregious. Ali and Cavett, the tale of the tapes, which is having its world premiere here.
It's world premiere
at
at South by Southwest.
Yep. So we're with Robert Bader, who is the director, and Mr. Cavett, the one of the two
Made
subjects.
it. What he did was he made it.
He made the film.
He's a maker.
And one thing I noticed from your career, Mr. Cavett, is that you have a way of going beyond just having guests on your show. Over time, it seems like you really developed special relationships with a number of recurring people. It's probably why they were recurring at all, is because they felt
That's one of the benefits of this bizarre job, is, in fact, not just getting to meet the people, which is really amounts only, in most cases, to sitting there with them for 90 minutes. But in some cases, made valued, wonderful friendships with Peter Ustinov and Groucho Marx and particularly Ali. We seem to have been made for each other. People watching it say, you can really tell how much he likes you and how much you like him.
Well, he said it to you on the show any number of times. He was complimenting you.
I also think that Ali is different on the Cavett show than anywhere else, because I spent the last few years looking at just about every piece of footage of Ali that I could find, and he didn't seem to be friends with other people when he was on their shows, and I don't think he, for example, spent the night at Merv Griffin's house. You know,
well, don't jump the gun yet, because this, of course, is the famous act, probably the most, and it's in the book. You described this him crashing at the Cavett pad.
Yeah, we were doing a documentary out on Long Island.
Let's get to it.
And
I know, yes.
And I said, "Why don't you stay at my house tonight?"
Yeah, it was late. You were out in Eastern Long Island, right?
He was very unhappy when I got to the set of this documentary. I wasn't in it, but I lived nearby. I got there, and he was standing up a cliff looking out to sea. And they were desperate. They said, "We can't get him to talk or listen to anybody. He just seems to be in a dream of some sort." And I thought, God, I hope he's not sick or, drugged. And which he never was.
No, of course not.
Perhaps the exception in show business and sports these days. Anyway, I went over and talked to him, and he said, "Dick," and kind of threw his arm around me. And he immediately came alive, and they were able to go on with their documentary. Mm-hmm. I'll never know exactly what it was. I'll never know what it is he saw in me. But we really, really became good friends.
Well, it certainly shows, and the film demonstrates that extensively and successfully. Yeah. But I think, your persona, if you want to call it I won't call it a persona. I'll call it your personality that shines through your show. It's why I was a fan. I really, really grew to have a relationship with the way that you didn't have with other talk show hosts. And I think that Ali, and please jump in, Robert, if if I'm wrong or if you have a different opinion, but that Ali sensed the same thing, that Dick was accessible and available, on a certain level, and and he could Ali could let his defenses down. The persona of who he was on, with Howard Cosell or with another talk show host.
I think what's really important in understanding how that relationship played out on television is that the Cavett show was very different than other network television shows at the time. I mean, there were certain rules in place that are obvious in that early show where Ali is coming on there basically mouthing the tenets of the Nation of Islam. I don't think you could actually say the words Nation of Islam on network television, but he was able to say all the things that basically Elijah Muhammad would want him to say on television, and Dick gave him that forum, and I don't think other shows would have. I think a lot of hosts would have jumped in and argued with him, and Dick let him say his piece, and they had reasonable discussion, which I thought was very unusual, and if you look at television now, that becomes a shouting match. But in those days, it was a even-handed discussion, which I don't think Ali was going to get anywhere else, and I think those early appearances where he got a pretty fair shake out of Cavett formed the basis of him coming back, developing a warm friendship, and you could see that play out as the shows go on. And by the end of the times he was appearing in the late 70s, the last time he was on the Cavett show, he had retired, and then he would come out of retirement. But you could tell by that, the difference between, say, 1970 and 1979, it's like night and day. It's like they're like practically, like Cavett likes to say, brothers on that 1979 show. Mm-hmm. And, the earlier shows, he's out there looking for trouble, because the Nation of Islam told him to go on network television and say that stuff.
Right. Yeah, there's a good clip of that in the documentary, and it's startling. I never saw that before.
People don't tend to use that stuff.
How serious he was in that last.
I think what's interesting is there's a lot of stuff about Ali, but people tend to not use that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, it's true. What a complex man he was. Wow. And he wasn't a fighter who could talk a little. He was a tremendous personality and tremendously smart from the beginning. It was just all of what most fighters are not, and had great fun with it.
Mm-hmm. You started talking about the time he stayed over. You invited him to come over to your house because it was late. You were already probably relatively close by your house, and it made sense to invite him over. Did you think he was going to accept the invitation?
No, I didn't. In fact, I just remembered something that I'd forgotten until now.
Oh, good. It's an exclusive here on the podcast.
I didn't get it in the film. You're going to get it.
I'll say this everywhere else, but this will be the first time.
Okay.
Seriously, folks. I asked him to come over, and I thought he might. And what he said that I remember was, "My mother will never believe I stayed in Dick Cavett's house."
He was so sweet.
Both laughed.
Yeah.
And I put him in, and he went and got into big bed. And then I left the house to go get his wife from a motel and bring her over.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
yeah.
But your wife called during the night.
And my wife
She was
called,
away, we should explain. She wasn't there that evening.
She was in New York. She called Montauk. He picked up the phone. She said, "Darling." And he said, "This ain't darling. It's only 3-time heavyweight champion in the world, and I'm lying in your bed, and I'm watching your TV."
What did she do after he said that?
She said, "Mr. Ali." Thank God she...
didn't she hang up the first time?
No.
Oh,
she just said, "Mr. Ali." Memories differ.
Sure.
But in this case, I know she said, and who could forget, "Mr. Ali, I will see that a plaque is put on that bed," which is more than she ever did for me. But, anyway.
Right.
Actually, the line that I love, I think it's in the film, Ali says, "You invite him," goes, "Yeah, I want to see how you live."
Oh, yeah.
He really was genuinely...
See how you live.
But he was genuinely, is it safe to say, a little in awe of you? I mean, I think he played it down a little, but I actually really think he was loved your whole personality, as I said, your whole thing, and really was excited to be your friend.
Well, the fact that it meant something to the greatest athlete of our time,
and a symbol to so many,
to stay in my house gave me a whole new impression of myself.
Right. You got very...
Yeah.
I must be pretty awesome.
Well, I can see him coming down the stairs in the morning, fully dressed, and obviously what he had on the night before. And he said, "You love your house, don't you, Dick?"
Why did he say that?
I don't know. He must have. It was true.
Yeah, you did. And then
But it was a kind of thing you probably wouldn't get from the late Kahn or maybe even Joe Louis, a sensitive side of him. He was less sensitive when I made a huge plate of bacon and eggs, and he thought it was for him alone.
You made it for all of you.
And so I had to go get breakfast later.
In other words, you made breakfast for everybody, put it out on the table. You went back into the kitchen for maybe a minute or two. Yeah. You came back, and it was all gone.
Well, it wasn't gone instantly, but the lion's share was already eaten.
Well,
and I didn't want to let him realize that he had eaten two people's breakfast.
Right.
Because it's a side of him that we haven't seen.
But he did come to, he realized it, and apparently, according to, I think, your film, and he
allowed me to have some scraps.
That's what they were.
I remember waking up in the night, now that I think of it, and thinking, good God, I was in the next bedroom. Muhammad Ali, A-L-I, is behind this wall. Whoa.
But you
don't get that feeling with a lot of other people.
True. Oh, absolutely. But didn't you meet already presidents and big Hollywood legends? I mean,
say that again.
I'm sorry. You had already at this point, I'm sure, met many famous Hollywood legends and renowned authors and politicians. And
yes, I had renowned people coming out my ears.
Yeah. So even though maybe they weren't sleeping over,
you weren't many slept over. I'm trying to think of any other one ever did. Certainly not Spiro Agnew.
No. Not invited anyway.
No matter how I pled with him.
Exactly. Or how many times you changed the locks on the doors.
But I think it's cool that Ali felt the same way about Cavett. Ali was really jazzed about being friends with him and staying at his house. I think when you were saying, wow, that's Muhammad Ali on the other side of that wall, I'm sure he was thinking the same thing about you.
Oh, my God.
Which
Isn't
is
that weird?
Kind of interesting.
And how many fights have I won? The only time I hit a guy in the face, it hurt my hand so that I swore I would never do it again. I should have asked him what I did wrong.
What was that occasion, since you brought it up? I didn't bring it up. Where you hit a guy in the face.
Oh, it was at an amusement park, and there was this smart-ass guy. And I don't remember now whether he shot my friend and me with a water gun or something. And I thought, I'm about to have a passage in my life. I was probably 12 years old.
Oh.
I'm going to hit this guy in the face as hard as I can.
Oh, you were a kid.
Wham! And everybody around was stunned. When you fought in school in those days, what you did was you got a guy down. I bet I could get you down. And Roger and so-and-so are going to fight at 3:15, and he's going to get who down. Nobody ever threw a punch.
Mm-hmm.
On the subject of punches, if I may digress to one of my favorite Dick Cavett stories.
Go.
You've got to tell the story about your walk through Chinatown with Marlon Brando and the encounter with paparazzo Ron Galella.
Oh, sure. Famous photographer.
You've described that punch, and I can't imagine.
Yeah, I had done the show with Brando, and there were big crowds at the stage door, in and out. And we got in the ABC limo, and Marlon wanted to go, Chinatown, find the restaurant I used to know. So we did, and
it's a great
halfway down, 3/4 of the way down, let's be precise, another car is following us. And I realized, Ron Galella. Fresh from having Mrs. Kennedy put a box on him to stay away from her. Mm-hmm. Galella, the really wonderful paparazzo. I mean, his pictures are terrific.
Sure.
And I still know Ron. But we got down there, and he and I are walking, Marlon and I. And the car pulls up. Two guys get out. Which one is Galella? I said, it's one of them. I'll cut to the punch line, and I didn't realize till I started that word. Had pronounced the P in it.
That's how easy it comes to you.
But anyway, there was some back and forth. Don't you get tired of taking the same picture all the time? He asked him. Mm-hmm. And then he said, come here a second. And go, yeah. I thought, this can't be the moment. Will you hold my mic a second?
Absolutely.
A punch that came up from the sidewalk, and I think it lifted him about an inch off the ground. Yikes. As it encountered Galella's upper jaw, which it broke.
It did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He fell on the hood of a car, a stuntman couldn't do because he didn't get his hands down first. Wham! Down to the hood of the car. We got out of there.
Pretty damn fast.
The nicest thing, I told Ali this story once, and he was doubled up. He immediately was sort of half fallen to the ground, and his assistant cameraman was standing with his camera at the full length of its strap, paralyzed, and missed the picture of his life. He didn't.
Oh my God!
He forgot he was a photographer.
I bet he forgot a lot. That took a while.
And then we got into a cab, and oddly enough, the driver was Chinese. And as I got in
Chinatown, yes,
I got in first, and then Marlon Starr said, "You go, just get out. You make trouble. You fight. I saw you fight. Get out." And
little editing, Zephyr.
I think he was Chinese or German. I'm not sure.
You can't you don't know this. You can't do Chinese accents anymore.
Yeah.
It's not.
Well, I can because my.
So they
friend-
cut Mickey Rooney out of Breakfast at Tiffany's?
No, I have a Chinese.
That's Japanese. That's wholly other issue.
What did he just say?
Mickey Rooney in Breakfast at Tiffany's.
that-
Maybe the most.
Why he survived that?
yeah.
I will never know. Mickey Rooney, yeah. But it's all right. I have a great magician friend who's Chinese, fooling you. How do you like that?
That's terrible.
So this whole section is
Terribly
being,
funny.
Is this whole section going to keep the
That's
part
not
about
a
Brando
joke.
slugging the guy?
Robert, I'm going to send you a clip of his last time on.
That's not a joke. Anyway,
Okay, I stand corrected.
so punching in my life involves the guy in the amusement park that hurt my hand.
That's one.
And he started to cry.
That made you feel bad, I bet.
And
You regretted it.
oh, God, I'm remembering things. Ali at the house. Have you ever been in a fight, Dick? And I said, not really. I didn't think of that at that time. What I did think of was in a playground in 6th grade, Herbert Langus and I got in a fight, and I had been reading up on martial arts, and a book called Modern Judo, 1914, at
Well.
the Lincoln, Nebraska City Library.
Yeah.
And there was a neck hold in there that I earned only in recent years has been banned from judo because it killed too many people.
Mm-hmm.
Some would say one is enough, but
Yeah, one is too many in a people.
I got it on Herb Langus.
I think
Herb,
I had
Herb, if you're listening,
I was going to say I think I had a case of Herb Langus, but it's
He fell to the ground,
penicillin took care of that.
but he just wilted and fell to the ground and didn't move
Mm-hmm.
and lay there dead, clearly.
Yeah,
And a tear came down. And then he stirred, and then he got up and was led into the schoolhouse. And you don't want to hear this, but I got the same hold on G. Gordon Liddy once. But maybe we're far afield.
Wait a minute, are you talking you?
I don't know if I
You
showed
did
Ali.
a judo
There's a
move on Liddy? Is that what you're saying?
Was that- what-
What did you do with Liddy?
Well, Liddy liked to
He-
show secretaries how to kill people with a
Oh, right.
pencil.
Yeah, with a pencil.
sharpened pencil. And he wouldn't show it on the air.
Mm-hmm.
But he said, I'll show you afterwards. And I said, I'll trade you something. And I got behind Liddy, and I got him this hold. It's not like anything you've ever seen. It's not the parallel arms or any of that crap. And I sat there thinking, do we need Liddy anymore? I've got this hold on him right now. The first thing it does is breaks the voice box. And then it cuts off the... I'll show it to all of you later.
well, by letting Liddy survive that, he's probably done it to a few people since.
You might have saved us from his talk show, right? That radio. He did a radio show.
Well, he was on my show at this time.
Well, he was on your show.
Yeah, yeah.
But he was-
And I'll never forget the way he sort of looked at me, the way Laurence Olivier and Richard III in a terrifying close-up looks down at the little prince he's going to murder. And he had that look, not directed at me, but just had it. And he said, I thank you for that. And the T at the end of that sounded,
Yeah.
I thank you for that. And that's why I say, when you're smiling.
When you're smiling.
If possible, you've made
Really
Liddy
brighten
more
your show.
sinister.
Ali and Cavett, the Tale of the Tapes, is premiering at South by Southwest. And Dick Cavett's here. You're going to do all the Q&As and the... How long are you in town, you guys?
We have a screening on Sunday night,
Uh-huh.
which has a Q&A after it, and then there's another screening on Monday. He's
Okay.
going home on Monday.
Okay. Right.
He's bailing out on me, but I'm going to be there Monday myself.
Well, you got to keep your energy and strength
know,
because you're going to be
yeah.
doing. I'm sure there's going to be a bunch in New York.
We're going to be
and-
doing some other stuff. We're going to
Yes.
we'll trot them out as needed.
Yeah.
And we
Sure.
got to.
I got to get home and practice
This
the neck
guy's-
hold.
Guy making appearances all over though. I've seen you do my friend Scott Rogowski's show and
Oh, yeah.
and a few other things, you'll show up.
Say hello to him.
He's too busy. He's become a big
Well,
deal.
he's a generous guy. He goes out and helps other people with
Right.
films and things like that. But
Right.
This one's real special because it's him, and it's just such a different look at Ali. And I'm glad we could bring a little attention to it.
I'm glad to have seen it, and to be having you guys on is a pleasure.
I'm glad to be in it to some extent.
When I had you on my show, when I came to your home on Central Park, and you had me over, and you signed my book, and you wrote something very nice in it. You wrote, "Don't read this till you get home, though, because you'll start crying." And he's right. I got very teared up. He goes, "You're really good at this," and I was like, "Wow!" For him to say that is a big deal to somebody like me.
Well, you got that book.
Yeah, exactly. And then I found out all my other friends got copies written with that written.
Same exact inscription.
Same
right?
exact. It even said to Adam on there. So it really bothered me.
Well, I seldom do this, but I'm going to give you permission to call me Mr. Dick.
Wow, thank you. Make sure. Well, when this comes to New York, I'll be promoting it again. Maybe I'll have
make
you guys
sure you
on.
know about it.
I'll be there. Don't worry. I'll be helping to get the word out about this really special documentary, and this amazing two guys, these two icons. Together in one film. It's amazing.
Separate icons.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Glad you were in town.
Me
Glad
too.
you were in town.
Me too. Thank you. Can we do a picture?
You're based in New York, I guess.